Jesse, welcome to the podcast. We are here today in beautiful Tantera for the Massa Spring Conference. Thanks for making a little bit of time, get together, talk about small rural schools.
I appreciate you having me on today.
Jesse, give us a quick version. Tell us about your journey with rural leadership. Why have you stayed?
Rural leadership is something that I guess I was born into. If you read my last blog, I've been in Canton, Missouri for 43 years. I'm 45 years old. I had 2 years away in Columbia, Missouri, but I chose to teach in North Callaway School District outside of Columbia. I was born and raised on a farm, have those small rural values in my life, and just really enjoy leading a school district, especially coming back and leading a school district that I was born and raised in.
And so what was something that drew you back to rural leadership, rural life?
My family's all from Canton, and my wife's family's all from Canton as well. We had a chance to come back and be part of the community again. Got into education, connected with kids in small rural schools, taught in Clark County, in North Callaway, and at Canton. Came to Canton as an administrator, and liked the values when I grew up in high school. Really want to see small rural schools succeed. Now seems to be the time to stand up and advocate for our small rural communities.
What do people need to know about being a leader, specifically being a superintendent in a small rural district?
We've been making big decisions in our district and the future of our district. In small rural schools, everything's very personal. Everyone, you know their kids, you know their story, the story of the family, what they are currently going through, what they've been through in the past. I think that is a good thing, and sometimes it's a very tough thing, because it's a good thing because you do have those relationships that you can lean into. You can try to help kids, especially all the way through. Our district is pre-K through 12, all in one building. Basically, we take up 2 city blocks. You can lean into those relationships, but it also is sometimes a lot of weight. You feel a lot of pressure because we all want to make people happy, and sometimes we have to make decisions that are tough. You know those people. You talk to them in the morning when you get your cup of coffee, or in my case, when I get my Mountain Dew. I think that both of those things are very good and positive to have that closeness, but sometimes there's a little weight with that. But that closeness also in a time like now when we're talking about school finance and decisions being made, that closeness allows us to rally the community around the school district and helps. I see more and more groups on Facebook here in Missouri now advocating for small rural schools, and I think that's a really important thing.
You talked about closeness being that double-edged sword, how one way closeness is hard to communicate those internal conversations, but it sounds like when those bigger things come along, that closeness pays off a little bit.
Yeah, I think as small rural leaders, we have to build trust, and our communities have to trust us and make sure that those decisions that we're making are in the best interest of our kids. I can tell you a story about closeness. One of the toughest parent phone calls I had ever had to make as a school administrator. I knew the number. I didn't even have to look it up because it was my mom's number. And I had to call my mom and tell her that I was suspending my younger sibling and putting him in ISS. That was an interesting conversation, but talk about closeness. I didn't have to look anything up and knew the voice on the other end of the phone. And I didn't know if she was mad at me or mad at him.
Yeah, it never is a fun conversation when you have to call your own family in your town. So let's talk about your work with Small Schools Committee, taking a big leadership role in that this year. What's the biggest pressure that rural leaders are feeling this year from your work with the Small Schools Committee? Funding
right now. This fall at the Mayor Conference, the Missouri Association for Rural Education, that's when the group gets together and talks about small rural schools. The committee, I got voluntold that I was going to be the leader of it. I felt like that was an important role for districts right now, especially when we were talking about modernizing the foundation formula. That was a really big first topic, and now a lot of proposed tax changes. Schools are starting to find out the budget for the state looks rough here in the next few years, and I think we all want to protect, so we go into that internal, let's conserve as much as possible but not limit what we're doing for kids. We're in that phase, and that's been good. Get information out to our other superintendents so people know we're outside. That wasn't a gunshot. That was a golf cart backfiring here.
Beautiful day.
Getting that information out to superintendents and letting them share that with their communities. I had a conversation with a superintendent, and she said, thanks for sharing that spreadsheet, which I didn't really create. I modified so that they could put in their numbers for their foundation formula payments and what they're getting now versus if we change that to current local effort. She was able to share that information with her community, and because of that sparked an interest for Voices of Callaway County, the small group of people who are advocating for small schools.
So let's talk a little bit about Uncommon Leaders Network and the newsletter. It really has become a network more than just a newsletter, and there's a lot of folks that have responded to it. What inspired you to start, and what need were you hoping to meet?
The need was just, it started when I got involved in the small schools committee. A lot of superintendents don't talk about stuff. It's transitioned to stories about everyday leadership to political stuff and talk about legislation that's being proposed and what that looks like to a small schools leader. Sometimes we just don't talk about those things. This week was about the pressures of being a small school superintendent or a small school building principal. It doesn't have to be superintendents either. It can be teachers. We all have a leadership role in our school. So let's put this down and see how it goes. I shared it with a couple people and read your book. There's a story out there for small schools that needs to be shared because we're unique. It's just the connections that we have, and that you see a kid get on the bus in the morning and you can tell they're not, something's going on. And that's another thing I do is drive a bus during the day sometimes. I drive a pre-K route every day, and that's probably one of my favorite jobs at the school. Those kids will give you hugs. I got a lot of kindergartners who I picked up during pre-K the last couple of years that they think that's my only job, driving a bus.
One of the beautiful things about small schools is it's not about the status that you have or the job title. It's about the significance that you have in people's lives.
I have 4 kids. I have a college freshman, I have a junior in high school, I have an 8th grader and a 2nd grader. So we run the whole universe of schooling, and there's a lot of time that you give up in small schools because we go to everything. We're at every event. I'm fortunate that my kids are involved. My son, who was a freshman in college, he was involved in a lot of things. Each one of them had their own unique talents. We spend a lot of time in front of people. There was an event at school, and I told my wife something, and she laughed at me. I was like, I need to make an appearance. And she said, you're not a celebrity. I'm like, I need to make an appearance. I need to show that I was there, because we had something else planned. I was like, I need 30 minutes so people can see that I'm there, that I'm involved. And I think that's a unique thing with small schools, is that you feel like you have to be at a lot of things. It takes a lot of time from your family. We all deal with it in our own way. And that was part of putting things out there with Uncommon Ed leaders, was let's write some of this stuff down people connect with. I've had a lot of people at the conference say, hey, I like your blog. And I just was in a session with Jennifer Kephart. She's done a great job putting together a children's book series, and it's not about self-promotion, it's about service. I've joined a Bible study here recently, and we talk a lot about servant leadership and discipleship, and it's one of those things like servant leadership, the best place to see that happen is in a small rural community.
I love the difference between status of what you could put on your resume with a newsletter or a book, for example, versus that shift that you make about it's about discipleship. It's about caring about people instead. Everything's urgent as a small school leader. How do you keep the main thing in rural education?
I do a decent job of compartmentalizing things. The main thing, yesterday there was a topic, fast is slow and slow is fast, and I think sometimes we forget that because we want to fix the problem right now. There's a whirlwind effect. We got that from the Franklin Covey training. We get caught up in the whirlwind of everything's tossed up in the air at the same time. The main thing for me is making sure that the kids at Canton R-V are taken care of and getting the best education that we can give them. Everything else, we can slow down and make those decisions as we need to. So I compartmentalize it into that effect of we're here for kids. And as long as we're doing what we need to for them, the copy machine, the bus broke down that didn't pass inspection because of rock drills in the tires, we'll take care of that when we can get to it. Kids are here and they're safe.
It sounds like presence is more important than performance. So how do you build trust with your staff and community? By showing up,
being there for them, and making sure that you do what you say you're going to do. If you are going to reach out to a parent, if you're going to email back, making sure that you take care of those tasks. So being present, the biggest part is just listening. I had a situation a couple weeks ago with a parent, and I did a good job of just listening. It took a few days for them to be like, okay, look, I understand now. I was upset, emotional at the time. Being there, being present, being somebody that will listen to concerns or even the great things that are going on, celebrate the great things that are going on.
Through Uncommon Ed Leaders, tell us a strategy that you are doing that is moving the needle for leaders in the state of Missouri.
Yeah, trying to write things or come up with ideas. Some of them are just a random stream of consciousness sometimes, like the thoughts that 12 o'clock at night and I need to put that down on a piece of paper and write about it. I think moving the needle is just bringing awareness to some of the difficulties that will be ahead if some things go through at the state. Trying to give examples too. I wrote a piece about open enrollment. Our school district's unique. I can see Illinois from my office. We're tucked right on the Mississippi River. I can see the tree line across on the other side in Illinois. I'm 20 minutes from Iowa and have some friends up in Iowa. Talking about open enrollment, Iowa's been doing that for 30 years, giving some examples about what small schools saw happen as open enrollment started happening in the 1990s in Iowa, giving people information to share. I try not to go back and see how many people have liked or shared the post, but life does that sometimes, saying, okay, 1,500 people viewed this post that I posted on the Uncommon Facebook page. That's 1,499 more people that are talking about it besides just me, or at least getting the information that they can share.
Hats off to you, because I know there's a lot of times we talk about ideas, but you're putting the work to it. You're sitting down, you're writing it out, you're getting the word out. So hats off to you. Jesse, how can people stay connected with the work you're doing?
Yeah, so you can search for Uncommon Ed Leaders on Facebook or even just on Google, and it should take you to our site. I'll give you the link and you can share that out. They can also just reach out to me. My email's available at Canton. That way, if you got an idea or if you need help with something, I've spent a lot of time on the spreadsheet that I sent out. I thought I was going to have to get a new phone because that spreadsheet went out. I shared it with a small group of superintendents on a Zoom call, and by 3 o'clock, my phone was just going ding, 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 people wanting access, and I thought, oh, what did I do? It's a little nerve-wracking with your book and stuff, and even with the blog post, there's a little anxiety with it. I'm putting this stuff out there. Is it good enough, or is there something in there? Do I need to go back and edit something? That spreadsheet was a big thing because people were changing cells, and I was like, I need to do a workshop on spreadsheets before I send out a spreadsheet next skill of don't change this formula. So I think you do have a little bit of that when you put out big products like your book, and you did a wonderful job on that. It was a great read and a lot of things that we can use in our daily life of small rural schools.
Appreciate that. That's all the time we have today, but appreciate you being here and the work you're doing. Keep being a champion for rural schools, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yep.